Broadcasting around the world on the World Wide Web. This is
the Andy Snowden Radio Show. It's the Andy Snowden Radio Show. It's the Andy Snowden Radio Show. It's the Andy Snowden Radio Show.
The music you love right here, right now.
Right then, I got a question for you.
Is there anybody out there who wants to rock? Tonight, live, we have the number one rock and roll band in the land. Will you welcome the magnificent Stylus?
Now, many parents believe, myself included, that introducing their children to music at an early age gives them a better start and all-round more enjoyable life. And no better example of this is Ireland's Calon Malone. Now, listen up. Carl is a lifelong Status Quo fan, and in 1999 took his young son Richie to see a gig and get his first taste of the rock concert experience. Sounds like a stellar chap so far, right? However, this concert had a rather profound reaction on a young Richie Malone, and like millions of other kids, begged their parents for a guitar so he could at least try and emulate his idol Rick Parfitt. Now, in 2016, the world of rock music was shook to its core when Rick Parfitt had a near-fatal heart attack following a gig in Turkey, and Richie Malone's life was about to change forever. This is a story I never ever get tired of listening to, and midweek I had a terrifically in-depth interview with Richie. So much so, I am relaying it back to you for the first time ever in 2 parts. And in the next hour, we'll hear about Quo's brand new album, Backbone. But first, here's the background to one of the nicest guys in rock music. Sit back and enjoy on the stage and screen show, Calon FM, Status Quo's Richie Malone.
Hello, mate.
Richie, how are you, my man?
I'm good, yourself?
I'm very well, thanks for that. I'll say Happy New Year to you. It's 2020 is going to be one hell of a year for the Malone family, isn't it?
Oh, stop. It's all underway.
How are preparations going for your wedding?
It's going well. The invite list seems to be creeping up.
Yeah.
I do, you know.
Uh-huh.
It's going well where everything's okay. I'm just trying to balance, I suppose, between back in the old day job and then the stuff like this with yourself and with the Quo fan club. Just bits and pieces that are still coming in, interview-wise and stuff.
Yeah.
So I'm just trying to find a place to get all the arrangements done, you know.
It's a bit like preparing for Christmas, because there's always something that you think you should be doing. When Christmas comes, it's always all right on the night, so you might as well just enjoy it.
Well, that's it, you know. But look, I don't think I'll be going this crazy next time I get married, you know. We'll strike that one out.
How was Christmas for you? Was it a goodie?
Christmas is okay. I think Christmas has definitely changed since we've had kids, you know, as many people will be able to understand. And it's just the slightest thing, if there's a bit of an illness comes into the house, you're always worried the week before Christmas. So we got through it okay. A couple of the girls were a little bit under the weather, but it's fine, you know. And my dad had a bit of a spell before Christmas in hospital. It was pretty severe, and so it's been one of those kind of, it didn't feel like Christmas for us this year, for me anyway, you know. And with no winter tour and stuff like that, it was just been a strange few weeks, I suppose, you know.
It's weird you say that, because my kids, they all seem to get ill just before Christmas. They finish school, they all become ill, and then you think, oh, I hope they're not ill on Christmas Day, and then they sort of, they always seem to pull through for some reason. But, well, I'm sorry to hear about your dad. That's really bad news.
Yeah, he's doing okay. I think a lot of people know now from hearing me being interviewed or whatever, he had a bit of a bad heart attack a few years ago, you know, but he's been okay. You don't know how lucky you are sometimes, you know. You're hit with something as a lot of people are well aware of, and we were told that he might not see Christmas, and So it's been a bit of a roller coaster, but he's thankfully, touch wood, he's fine now. He's back home. Everything's back to normal, as if nothing has happened. But it's amazing how your mind thinks when you're in that situation. You know, it's just amazing how you try to adapt. But we're all happy he's still with us, and long may he be around. You know.
Oh, fantastic! We'll give him my best when you see him. Well, apart from that drama and the drama of getting married, 2020 for you professionally is, it's about to take off with a massive European tour, isn't it, in October, and celebrating the new album, which we're going to talk about in depth in a mo. But for anybody that doesn't really know your backstory, you were basically doing a normal day job, doing gigs now and again, and then suddenly you get a call, can you come and play with Status Quo? It's incredible, really.
It is, and I know it must be like what I understand now what Francis must feel or what Rick must have felt anytime they would have done an interview, and no matter how far down the line it was, they were always asked, what was it like to open Live Aid? Yeah. So it's amazing that I've kind of forgotten about it, but of course I keep forgetting what an incredible story it is. I'm here, and so I suppose I've adapted to the situation now, and I'm glad that it's the way it's all happened, and I've found my place in the band. But for anyone that hasn't heard the story, I know it is something worthy of a movie or a book, because of what a big fan I was or still am, and my dad's upbringing into the band, and just the way that the whole friendship, I suppose, started off with me and Rick. It started off just so crazy, just from me being down the front of the barrier, and a bit of eye contact is what got me from the very first gig. Just that eye contact, that the acknowledgement, I think is the right word to say, that Status Quo used to give to the fans. Yeah. For me, I still go to watch other bands now, and I look up at the guys. I just find it difficult that some guys, they don't look down and acknowledge the fans. They just look straight out, get the show done, and next. For me, it was that initial acknowledgement is what got me hooked, and I went all the way up, over the years, travelling to see the band and building up a friendship with Rick, Yeah.
Because I always think, when I was exactly the same as you, I was kind of the same age, and I went, and I think I've spoken to you before about it, but back in 1982 when they did a gig on the TV for Prince Charles, and the older I get, the more I kind of think there must be some sort of science connected to what makes us like certain types of music. Our tastes. Some people like Status Quo, some people like classical music, some people like, I don't know, and pop music or whatever. But some music, it just sort of hits you and you're hooked straight away, you're in there.
Yeah, well, I definitely think that's true, and in my situation, I didn't realise it at the time, but I was always surrounded by Status Quo when I was growing up. I didn't take much notice of it because it was just normal to me. My dad would have been in listening to Hello or Quo or even my first album that I can remember him playing on repeat, which most Quo fans would probably despise, is the Thirsty Work album. I absolutely love that album, but people would say, how could you like that album? And that's the beauty, again, of music and opinion. But I didn't realise the seeds were being planted all along. It wasn't intentional, but I suppose once I got my first taste of a Quo show, and it being my first proper concert, everything just fell into place. And who knows, if I hadn't have gone to that show in '99, I know for sure I wouldn't be here now. I probably would have never picked up a guitar. I would have had a totally different life, completely different. It could have been a different career even. It's amazing how that one 90-minute set up there has changed the course of my life, Yeah.
But just going back, you got a call from Rhino, John Edwards, who's the bass player for anyone that doesn't know. And so you're driving along the road, you get this call. Are you still playing? Are you up for? Do you want to come and audition for the band? Then what happened? I'm confused there, because did you just jump on a plane, or what? How does it work?
Well, apart from me lying down the phone, basically telling lies to Rhino, and he said to me, "Are you still playing?" And funny enough, again, it's another one for the book. That I had packed up music nearly 2-3 weeks beforehand. I'd given up on music. I'd had enough, and the call came in. And it was so random because I hadn't seen Rhino in a few years. The last connection I'd had with Status Quo would have been the Frantic Four in Dublin, which would have been 2014. So fast forward 2 years, I think it was around June or July 2016, I got the call. So he just happened to say, Rick is ill. And I said, of course, yeah, is he okay? And what's up? And he goes, we're just wondering, are you still playing guitar? We'd like you to, audition for the band. And I still kind of see it as a blur. But Rhino has been interviewed since, and he's done another one. They're doing a documentary on me back home here. And I believe the funny bit was he said how calm I was when he asked me that question is what took him. He couldn't believe that I was so calm, and I just kind of said, yeah, of course, no problem. It was when I hung the phone up that I nearly crashed the car and realised, what just happened? What did I just agree to?
Yeah.
What are you doing?
Well, I do that with things a lot less than what you're talking about, and I just go, yeah, that'll be fine. And I come off the phone and I suddenly go into panic mode. But I've heard you say about your dad, when you told your dad, that he basically went, yeah, that sounds about right.
Yeah, he did, and all credit to him. He like, I know it, I don't want to, he didn't, it wasn't in a cocky way. He just kind of said, of course, well, it's got to be you, kiddo.
Yeah.
He would say it. I didn't understand. He said, well, who else is it going to be, for Christ's sake? It has to be you. I never in a million years ever thought that would have happened, because people don't get this. For me to have to imagine this would have happened, it would have meant that I wanted Rick to step down and get out of the band for me to step in. Sure, Rick was my idol, so it's never a question that you would want it to happen. It was just a dream to watch them play, and I always wanted to be in my own band. I did 100% doubt myself in that first couple of weeks, and I think it was only for my partner Jess. I was going to ring Rhino back and say, I think I've made a mistake. I don't think I'm up to this. You know, I think the more I thought about if I get this gig, I'd have to open the show. I'd have to do the intros to Hold You Back and do the intro to Whatever You Want. Big signature pieces of music for Quo fans. So I really started to doubt myself, but Jess just happened to say, if you don't do this, you'll regret it for the rest of your life.
Absolutely,
and, You know, and her opinion was, just go over and do it. And sure, look, if it doesn't materialise, you can always say you jammed with Quo. You know, that would have been... Which would have been great at the time. It would have been great. I would have been still talking about it to this day, that opportunity, that I got the call in the first place. But it was an interesting couple of weeks, because I drew blood at one stage on the right hand, trying to go back and learn the Quo songs. I had played them, as many people know, in my old band, lots of Quo tunes, but never analysed them like this before. I have to play it spot on, album spec, in front of thousands of people, the real deal.
Well, I was going to ask you actually about the set list, because presumably there's the hits you'll know, that goes without saying, but some of the songs, did they just say, we won't do those until you know them, or what did they do?
No, it was from what I remember, Freddie had come in just before me, so while I was preparing to go on the road, they had changed or altered the set slightly. I think something might have been dropped. Rick would have been singing lead vocal on, I'm not sure, but I think they dropped the key down of Rain down to G. So Rhino was singing Rain. So when I was coming in, I was given the set list that they were currently doing on that summer tour. I think one of the last shows that I was using as a reference was a Scarborough show with Freddie, which was an off-the-desk recording. That's what I was listening to that to hear what Freddie was playing, because Freddie's parts were prominent in the mix that Andy May, from the house guy, had done for me.
Right.
So I was getting to hear the parts of the songs, learning stuff that I didn't know was in the song before, because I never had to learn it to that level of detail before. You think you know it until you really go in and try analyse it, you know. And plus I had to play it with the current version of Quo. It wasn't like, I couldn't learn the Hello version of Caroline. It just doesn't suit, it doesn't fit in with the current band, the tempo, the duration of the song. So I had to really sit down and listen to the full set and try to get it as best as I could. But all of this was happening, and I didn't know I was going to be offered a position in the band, you see. I didn't even know I was going to be brought to rehearsals. I was told there was an audition.
Right.
So I was working towards an audition. So I had to send a few demos over to Rhino so Leon could hear my playing with a click track. I think it was Don't Waste My Time and Caroline and something else like Hold You Back. But Rhino just rang and said, yeah, we're flying you out to Belgium for rehearsals. So I was expecting them to say, sounds good, yeah, you're in for the audition. I thought I was up against somebody else.
Yeah.
So to leap over all of that and just to get the call to say, we're flying you out, like that kind of rock and roll moment where, or as Francis used to say with Pictures of Matchstick Men, we're going professional.
Yeah.
For me, that call was nearly my moment of that same type of thing where I'm being flown out somewhere. You know, it never happens. So it was a really, really exciting few weeks, and because I didn't know what was coming ahead. I was just going to do that one show in Belgium, and that was it. I didn't know what was coming down the line. You know.
I mean, don't take this the wrong way, but I know Freddie was playing with the band a few times. Why didn't they just sort of keep him? Do you know why, or would it have been just a bit weird?
There is a couple of reasons, and I know the main reason anyway. With Freddie has his own band, and they're quite good, you know. And he was based in the States. I think they're called Flaws. Right. This is John Edwards, is the bass player's son, isn't it? Right. For anybody who doesn't know. Go on, sorry. Freddie Edwards, yeah. So Freddie was doing quite well, and still is, I believe, with that band. So he didn't want to commit, he couldn't commit to doing more shows or staying with Quo in the long run. And the more and more uncertain it got, the more I was doing gigs at this stage. So it was always uncertain how many gigs I was going to do. So I did the first 2 shows, and then I think I did another few, one in Spain and a couple of other places. But I never knew, was I going to be doing the European leg of the tour? And then the ultimate for me, was I going to do the winter tour in the UK and everywhere else, the rest of 2016? Yeah. But I think from what I believe, the more and more I was playing with Francis, the more and more he was finding it was getting quite solid, and he was enjoying it. And I think Freddie maybe hadn't made a decision or was hanging around a bit, so Francis just ultimately said, it's you're in, you've got the gig. God. And I remember being told that we were playing Carfest for Chris Evans. Yep. And I thought it was going to be my last, and up until that was probably the biggest show. There must have been over 30,000 people at that. I remember in backstage that day, I was trying to sort out my guitar cases, because the logistics of it is, this is my last show now. We're breaking up, and the next leg is the last night, the Electrics tour, the winter tour. Yeah. And I said to our PA, Lyanne, about my cases going home, and she's, oh, no, do you not know yet? I said, no. She said, you don't need to take your cases home. You're going to be staying out on the road. God. That's how I found out that I was going to be doing another 20-odd or whatever it was shows, and immediately the first thing I thought of was the 3 Arena in Dublin. That meant I was going to play in the 3 Arena in Dublin, you know? Yeah. So that first few months, again, for me, was magic, because it was uncertain as to what was coming down the line. I wasn't certain where it was going. So to be told every few weeks, no, you're going to be doing that, and you're going to be doing this as well, and now you're a permanent member of the band, was, you know, it was absolutely magic, you know. Yeah, I've heard you say after that first gig you did in Belgium, was it? Yeah. After the gig, they sort of all jumped on the bus and went and left you on your own. Is that right? That is exactly what happened. That's just bizarre. And now I understand why, you know, because when they're in a routine on the road, you're in a bubble, as I'm sure Quo fans have heard before. You're off the stage, you're into the bus, and you're gone. So my arrangement was I would do the gig and I would fly home the next day. So we'd come off the stage and we walked backstage into the dressing room. Simon Porter was there, and the first thing he did was he came over and gave me a hug and shook my hand. He said that was fab. Francis shook my hand and said, I'll be talking to you soon. And with that, it was a quick goodbye, well done, and they were gone. You're talking 5 minutes max. Everyone was gone, and there was nobody in the dressing room. It was just me and a bottle of Peroni beer. I just sat there, and my phone hadn't stopped. There was people. It was like Live Aid at home for people wondering, how did I get on at 9 o'clock? Did I open the show? Did everything go okay? And did he poop his pants or not? Yeah. You know, that few minutes, really, I'll never forget that. It's almost like when you've just had a baby, when you've just, you know, been handed your child for the first time. Yeah. Kind of just sat there looking down, going, wow, what's happening? Yeah, but to be sort of left there with your own thoughts is to be left there, yeah, quite remarkable, really. It's quite remarkable, and I do. It's only when I get to talk about it like this that I kind of remember it. I tend to forget that all that has happened, and those experiences that I've felt, or those what I've gone through, and it really was quite surreal to just sit there for a few minutes and think, wow. And bear in mind, Rick was still with us at the time, so I was wondering. I wonder what would Rick have thought of that now. I wonder, is it up to scratch? Are the fans going to like it? And little did I know, down the line, you do start, as me and you spoke about before, social media and stuff. But that was that starting point of this experience, this roller coaster or whatever that I was about to set out upon,
And so, fast forward 150 odd gigs, and and I'm always intrigued by when you're on tour. Do you sort of like slip into a routine rather quickly, on and off stage?
Yeah. I know Rhino has pulled me aside a couple of times in the last 3 years, kind of just to compliment me in a way of sorts, to say, you've taken to this really well, because, and what he meant by this, touring in general, especially with a band like Status Quo, where everything is fine-tuned, there's no messing about, there's no parties, it's all like clockwork. So to fit into a very tight space, into a bus and an environment where they wouldn't know who I am, apart from I'm some crazy Quo fan,
Yeah.
So took me the guts of a year to kind of find my place, but you do get into a routine, and when your routine is slightly knocked out, it really can affect you in all kinds of ways, and it doesn't sound all very rock and roll and amazing if you were to really strip back the curtain and know what goes on back there. But your routine is key every day. When you get up, you do have a certain routine you do every day on the road, Otherwise, you'd be like Rhino is, you'd be all over the place.
Yeah. Well, a mate of mine used to be the technical manager at St David's Hall in Cardiff. And he invited me there one day when Quo were playing. It was ages ago. Matt Letley was still in it, and and I got there about 10 o'clock in the morning, and the band were already there.
Of course,
I couldn't believe it.
Yeah. Well, most gigs, I wake up, we're parked outside. Most times I'm woken up is with a bass drum being soundtracked in the venue. So we've gone to bed in Germany, and we're waking up in Austria, wherever the geography of it is, whatever the tour is running, or the same in the UK. You go to bed in one county, you wake up in another, and you're outside another venue, and it's another day, and we're about to go through the same process again, the same routine for the whole day. Do the gig, off the stage, have a beer, listen to some music, go to bed, wake up in the next town.
Right.
So it's not for the faint-hearted. I don't want to take away the magic of it. It is magic, and I wouldn't change it for the world. But it does take a bit of getting used to. But once you find your routine, that's the key on the road. And plus, getting to know each other and being very close with each other is very important.
Yeah.
Not in that kind of way.
Well, absolutely. But I suppose if living on a bus, but it's pretty much like that, isn't it? But I'm just midway through reading Francis Rossi's his book, his new book, and I mean the whole sort of sex and drugs and rock and roll of the 70s. That's kind of gone now, hasn't it? You don't. Is it true you don't have much to drink if there's a gig the next day? Is that true?
Is Francis listening? Get off the line, Francis. Yeah, of course it is true, and again, I think things are a lot more professional nowadays. And look, if you're going to have a heavy night on the alcohol, I've done it. I definitely will admit I've had a slap on the wrist from Francis a few times, from maybe going a bit too hard on the bus and waking people up, and stuff that people don't know about. But I suppose that's the Irish in me. I tend to get a bit partyish.
Yeah.
But you do learn the hard way, and I've done a few shows. Although out front you would not notice the difference. Out front you still have to be on your game. You still have to play. The problem is, and I think I never understood when Rick said the microphone becomes about 5 meters wide when you've got a hangover, and it's just waiting to swallow you up.
Yeah.
So as you're walking up to sing your piece, you just want the ground, the earth to just open up and swallow you, because you feel awful, but yet you're still playing, you're hitting the notes, but it's not a nice experience. So I've learnt my lesson. Obviously, having a few hangovers on stage, it's not nice, you know. So you will try and have, if you're going to have a few beers and listen to a few tunes, we will always have it arranged for it's going into a day off.
Yeah.
Myself and Leon normally having an iTunes battle downstairs on the bus is normally as rowdy as it gets.
Yeah, but
yeah, you try stick within your limits. Otherwise, it can be, you know, it's not worth it, you know.
No. But I need to thank you, actually, because when you first joined the band, I remember hearing you on, I think it was on some morning show or something, talking about, it was either Jack Daniels with honey, is it? And,
yeah, that was one.
And I was 50 this year, and I had 3 bottles of that, and they're all gone, and they're lovely. I love it.
Well, there you go, and that was the cause. That was the very first time I got a telling off by Mr. Rossi.
Yes, yeah.
It was the first night of the last night of the Electrics tour. I think we were playing in Vienna, Austria, or somewhere like that, and you know, Leon left me upstairs on the bus. You know, I always remind him of that. When he left me up there to fall asleep, spilled the Jack Daniels all over myself, and I woke up and I did not feel good. And I was sticky because it was...
Yeah, it is a bit, isn't it? It's like drinking a bag of sugar, but it's lovely.
Oh.
What a drink.
Everything in moderation. But it is a nice drink. Drink responsibly, kid.
Yeah, absolutely. And which I'm going to start doing now it's all gone. Because it ain't cheap, is it? But because the other thing about your routine when you're on tour, I've always noticed with Status Quo that there's almost like a choreography to the show where you always seem to go to the certain places.
I used to think that the guys used to rehearse that in rehearsals, or you know, the stage movements. And funny enough, I say they, and now I'm meant to say we don't. It's kind of, that evolves over the duration of a tour. Now, yes, we do. Rhino will be quite good at it, and the whole idea is the visual out front. Francis is really, really keen on what the band looks like from out front. He loves it when there's 4 of us across the front of the stage, and that's why now people will see a lot more of Andrew down the front.
Yeah.
So when, like, we have to admit, not every person in every venue is a diehard Quo fan. A lot of people that are there, it's either their first time, second time, or they're only going to hear the hits. So when they see this group coming out and everybody looks like they're in a place and it's all organised and choreography everywhere and it looks fantastic from out front, it's not easy though. When we come back into rehearsals this year, and you go and do the first show, we're going to be up there thinking, crap, where was I in this?
Yeah.
I think I used to be over there. So it takes a few shows, but when the band is on it's all firing and it's all working like a machine, everything falls into place. You're in your places where you feel comfortable, or in certain parts of songs, the music is flowing, everybody's tight. It does take a few shows. So if you want to laugh, the best thing to do is come and see the first couple of shows.
Yeah, yeah.
Falling over each other, you know. Because
I always imagine you do something and then later that night you'd sort of go, that was quite good, we'll do that again, or something.
No, that's 100%, and that absolutely has happened quite a lot. And it might be a piece of... see, we always do, or they have always done that piece in Rockin' Over the World where you fall back into the drum riser for the last piece with the 3 guitars across the front. Like that's a photo thing. It's everyone. It's a visual. So if you're out the front of the right hand side of the stage, and you forget to go back, which Rhino does tend to forget an awful lot, and me and Francis are waiting for him to come back. That laughter, that moment, that's not made up. That's genuine. You know, we're having a lot of fun on stage because somebody's probably messed up or forgotten to do something. Then the fans are vibing off us having fun on stage. There's a lot of bands that are very serious on stage. It can be fantastic and technical, but I do think if you can have fun and be a little bit serious and be professional with the whole thing, it all goes out. It's all for the fans at the end of the day, you know. And
you mentioned it before about the interaction with the crowd, which that must be, that's something that you can't learn. That's just the way that you are with people who can see it, or the eyeliner that you can catch at the time, I suppose. Yeah. Has it always been as easy as it looks now? Because the last gig I saw you at doing was on Hyde Park, which was awesome, by the way. I mean, it just took off, and it was just brilliant.
Yeah. yeah. And it's your point exactly when you're asking about stage movements and stuff. That would be now my reference for a quote show. If anyone ever wants to see the current lineup, I would always now direct them, and thankfully it is. The majority of it is all on YouTube. I've watched it a couple of times from a learning point of view. I hate seeing myself. I don't know, it sounds crazy, but the band on that particular show is, in my opinion, we really are really tight, and you can imagine the nerves are all, everybody's a little nervous as well. But I said to a fan a few weeks ago, bumped into him here in Dublin, he was at a Ghost concert with me, and he was saying, I must try and get to see you guys. And I said, I'll tell you what, you watched the Last Night Electrics in London. And he said, yeah, I've seen that. I said, have you seen Wacken? And he goes, no, I must check it out. I said, you go and watch Wacken, and then go and watch Hyde Park, and send me a message and see. And he texted me a few days later and said, I cannot believe how right you were. Yeah. To think the band back in 2016 to 2017, and then the difference again in 2019, it's incredible. Just what's going on stage, and you can't rehearse that. That's I suppose a band that's trying to find their place with each other, you know.
Yeah, it is. It was awesome. There's no two ways about it. Here is a question that you've probably never been asked. The blue jeans look is gone, right? That's the last 20 years probably. Your stage clothes. Francis Rossi has got an image, hasn't he? He's got his white shirt and his waistcoat. Do you put much thought into what you wear, or aren't you that bothered?
It drives me insane because I know that I've always liked wearing black jeans anyway.
Yeah.
I've always liked wearing white runners, so it suits me, and it's kind of like putting on Superman's cape when you get suited and booted before a show. I know it sounds crazy, but when you put the uniform on, something happens. You feel like you're going out, fight crime. But no, it's for me. I'm torn between what shirt. My biggest problem is my shirt. I would rather wear a black shirt, and I might change it for this year. But I suppose that Francis again likes to have the whole thing, and Andrew, they like to have the whole thing, a look to it up there, not just random outfits,
Yeah.
Even back in the day, it was all denim. I know there was variation on everybody, but it was all the blue denim. So I suppose for me, my biggest problem is trying to find the shirt that I like that's different and not just a bog standard shirt.
Yeah. And
I like a little bit of detail or something on it. But I've a very good guy here at home, a tailor that is very close to the family, and my last few shirts, they might have been a long sleeve shirt that I bought somewhere, but he's completely cut them and chopped them and turned them into what I wear on stage. So it's just to have something kind of unique up there. But I'd love to change it up and do something different. But again, it all has a look itself,
Yeah, I mean, the only reason why I ask is when I first got into Status Quo, back in the sort of Alan Lancaster days, that everybody had a sort of uniform on stage, where Alan Lancaster wore a cut-off sort of John Travolta t-shirt. Francis Rossi had his denim waistcoat and that. But Rick Parfitt always used to sort of change it each tour, but then they become iconic things. But maybe just over the years, his end of the road ice hockey shirt and his Live Aid pink shirt. These. Yeah. I mean, that pink shirt, when I first saw it, I thought, oh, hello. But now I think, I just think, brilliant, good idea. I suppose
my nod to that, and again, you're 100% correct. I always look at Rick. I think you would refer to Rick as the Angus Young of Status Quo. There was something about happening with him there, his look, whatever his demeanour was, or the hair, or his stance. But for me, my little nod, not really to Rick, but in a way, was my wristband. I wanted to try to do something kind of unique. So for every show I play, I wear the country flag. Wherever we're playing, it's the country's flag as the wristband. So it's the German flag, or it's the Austrian, or in the UK, I kind of use a I love the mod symbol, like the RAF symbol.
Yeah.
On a wristband. So that's kind of, people have said that's really something that you're doing. I didn't mean it. I didn't want it to be anything. It's just, if you're going to do something that stands out, I thought that was just kind of something small, because I need a wristband, otherwise you tear the arm off yourself,
So where'd you get them all from? Do you have to get them all on Amazon or something?
Yeah, I think I got them originally on Amazon, and then there's a company called Best Buy Flags, But I kind of change it up. It just depends on the material. But I normally, with the tour coming up now, I'll have to stock up in the summertime and order them all in, and then they all have to. I have to take, every time I come home, I take another bunch out with me, and it's number one on the list. If I ever leave home without them, there's a panic, because the guys always wind me up on the road. If I'm wearing a certain wristband, Andrew will always say, "You can't wear that in this part of this country. Are you nuts?"
Yeah, maybe you should start wearing an EU one, just for.
Yeah.
So do you give them away at the end of the show? Is that what you do?
Yes, exactly, and that again, the magic of that, and there are so many messages that I've received in the last 3 years from parents of kids that are saying, "You've no idea. My son or my daughter got your wristband and your plectrum last night. They want a guitar for Christmas," and it's actually happened.
Yeah.
I spoke to a guy recently where his son got my plectrum at the Royal Albert Hall show for acoustic, and he wanted to learn to play guitar. So that was 2017, I think, and 2 years up to last year, he played his first gig with a band at 12 years of age or 13 years of age. Because he got a plectrum, he said he wanted a guitar to go with the plectrum. And I cannot believe it's so easy, that it's so simple, that for me just giving something out like that, you've no idea what that sets somebody else off on their own journey.
Absolutely.
That's their life. Yeah. So yeah.
But I remember seeing at the, I think it was at the end of the Wacken show, you threw your sweatband at a girl, and you'd have thought she just caught the crown jewels. I mean, she was ecstatic.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
I had seen the webcast, I think, of that or something like that. Originally, my dad had recorded it before. I didn't know at the time it was going to eventually come out on a release. So when we watched it for the first time, and I had a little look towards the end and see the credits, and all of a sudden the cameras are zooming in. I couldn't believe it.
Yeah.
That's exactly what I'm talking about. That captured that girl, whoever she is. I've never heard from her. I don't know who she is, but she had an incredible reaction, you know. Yeah.
Well, I mean, I just thought, I can remember when I was a kid, and it was always like the drummer that threw his sticks out, and whoever got the sticks, they were like, oh, some people got beat up for them. It was weird.
Yeah. Or you got to stick in the, and now with the way things are going, we have to be careful.
Yeah.
From health and safety point of view, it's gone nuts, you know.
So we'll hold it there so we can get the latest news, and we'll be back with the second part of this incredible story from Status Quo's Richie Malone on Calon FM, the Stage and Screen show. And also coming up in today's show,
you're listening to the Andy Snowden Stage and Screen radio show, broadcasting around the world and in Rosa Medre.
yes, indeed, it is I, Andy Snowden, with music from Stage and Screen and anything you might have seen on your television box. And if you've got something to say about it, you can get in contact with me. And I think the easiest way, and the cheapest, right? The easiest way is on the old Facebook there. I set up a page just for you chaps. It is very simple. Andy Snowden at Calon FM Stage and Screen. That's Andy Snowden at Calon FM Stage and Screen. That's on Facebook. Or indeed, you can contact with me on Twitter as well. Ooh, they got Twitter as well. Get her. I know, it's the new millennium after all. And that's just at Calon FM. A little bit easier on the thumbs, that one. Few people have been in contact with me regarding the Richie Malone interview in the first hour. If you've missed it, we've had a terrific interview that I had with Richie midweek from Status Quo, and Rob Croft. He contacted the studio. He said, "Hi Andy, really enjoying your interview with Richie Malone. He's a true gent," he says. And Owen Jones, Status Quo have been a band I've followed all my life, and Richie is a fantastic addition to the band. Thanks for this interview. And Grant Baines, he says, "Andy, your interview with Richie is wonderful. I'm sat here waiting for the rugby, with a beer in hand and a smile on my face. Which Quo member are you getting on next, he says. Well, Grant, Francis Rossi is coming to Wrexham next month, so maybe we could get him on the show again. What do you think? You never know. Anything could happen. So coming up, we've got the second part of this Richie Malone special interview I had with him midweek, and we're going to be talking about this brand new record-breaking album that Status Quo have just released. I say just, last September they released it, and it broke all sorts of records, it did. So stay tuned for that, and it's coming up here on the Stage and Screen Show. Calon FM, good afternoon. So, as you were, now in the first hour of the show, we heard the remarkable story of Status Quo's latest recruit, Mr. Richie Malone, who replaced his idol, the late, great Rick Parfitt, after he sadly died on Christmas Eve 2016. Now, with over 150 shows under his belt and a brand new studio album, Status Quo's 33rd to date, it's called Backbone. We start the second part of this special with Richie Malone talking about literally that. So put your feet up, pour yourself a honey-laced bourbon and enjoy on Calon FM, the Stage and Screen Show, Status Quo's Richie Malone.
Backbone, mate. So number 6 in the UK charts, most successful in terms of chart position for almost 40 years, and number 6 in Germany, which is the highest position for a Quo album ever. You could be forgiven for being a bit excited about that.
Yes, and I don't know, me and Leon were definitely excited all the way through. Hats off, all credit to the record label. Like, they really worked their asses off on Backbone over in Germany. You know, just the promotion of it and the posters and the campaign behind it. And yeah, for me, it was the first time to ever be involved in such a thing. I know we've done some live DVDs, CDs, whatever, but to be part of a studio album and then to be part of all the promo that came about from it is just, you know, it was an insane few weeks, you know.
Yeah,
it really was. But it's the writing process and all you don't realise what's ahead. You're right now. Where I'm sat right now is where I put together, you know, Get Out of My Head and Face the Music and dribs and drabs and demos, and then the scariest thing for me for the whole process was the very first email that went to Francis with my very first demo. You know, he was pestering me for some stuff in early 2018. So that was I suppose, from the very start, and wondering what was he going to say and where was this journey? This is the next journey now, part of a Quo studio album, and where is it going to take us? You know,
because there was a worry, wasn't there? Because it's the first one without Rick Parfitt, and there must have been not just in the band, but the management and the record company. There must have been reservations. There
was lots of that. Like, obviously, well before you guys would have even known there was an album coming out. You can imagine all the logistics and all the planning and the bookings, everything that has to happen in advance. Needless to say, the album itself has to be put together. So even just to agree to do the album, you know, we have to start, you know, everything has to be put in place. Are we doing this or not? So we took it slow at the start. Nothing was confirmed. It was just Francis. I was only looking at my WhatsApp earlier. I was trying to remember this because I knew I'd be talking to you. And it was, funny enough, the 28th of February 2018 when Francis basically said, "Have you got anything for me or what?" And we had had the worst snow we've ever had here in 20 years or something in Ireland. I was snowed in, but you know, it started off slow, and I had a small riff, which as you know now, Get Out of My Head. When I eventually sent that to him, it was funny because there was the response that he came back with is, "I've just decided that you are a little," and it's not a nice word he said. He was kind of slagging me off. "I've just decided that you're a beep," because he wasn't expecting me to come out with probably whatever I came out with there, you know.
Yeah.
So it was a good start. It was off to a good start, and then it was just that I had to take lots of trips over and back. I was living in his house for a while, and we would just go out again, as you would ask earlier, a routine. So it was just like going to work. I get up in the morning, he cooks breakfast, and we go out and we spend the afternoon. But I actually spent nearly more time on Backbone doing vocals than guitar, funny enough. So I did all my guitar parts, but I did an awful lot of vocal work on Backbone, and it was something that was a decision that Francis, he said, you know, it might annoy a few people, or some people might not be happy that you're doing so many vocals on this, but he was hearing something on the desk with Andy Brook. He said, no, we've got to put more of him on this, above, below, on the harmonies and wherever else. So to hear it come back, to hear the album as it was being put together and mixed, it was an absolutely incredible process, you know.
But it's an outstanding album. I'm start to finish,
Yeah.
and that's a rare thing, really, isn't it? I mean, even if you're a massive fan of a band or an artist, to get an album where you never skip a track at all is really rare.
Yeah, and look, the only downside for me is no matter how much I want it, I'm not able to hear a Backbone from a fan's point of view now. I can't.
Yeah.
I can't hear it the way I used to hear a Quo album, because I'm on it, because I know. Because I'm part of the process, it is essentially work. It's a piece of work that we've created, so I can listen to it and appreciate it. But it's not like when I stick on the Hello album or the Party Ain't Over Yet or something. That's status quo to me.
Yeah.
Like with Backbone, I think it's a fantastic album. I'm really proud of it. But I'm hearing it now from an artist point of view, if you know what I mean, as opposed to just kicking back and having a few beers and putting it up to 10, you know, which
Yeah.
you do sometimes.
Yeah, but I mean, you've mentioned it there. I mean, you wrote a couple of tracks for the album. I mean, Get Out of My Head, I would say is in my top 10 of all time favourite Status Quo songs. It's brilliant, man.
Jesus Christ. Are you sure you're feeling okay?
Every time I hear it, I just, it does something to me. And it was funny because actually, when I said to you I was interviewing Francis Rossi, and he said to me, when it's like Roadhouse Blues on acid, and I said that's exactly what it is. And I thought, because I thought that it's that riff but faster. But I'm interested, when you sent that to Francis, was you really kind of... I mean, this would have been my reaction, right? I would have been really humble, and I'd have gone, listen, it's a load of rubbish. Tell me what you think, or something.
Now, I was playing it down. If you can imagine, I'm about to say... Like, there's part of me that's saying, I'm sending the track to Francis Rossi here. Forget the fact that I'm in the band with him. You know, I'm sending the track to Francis Rossi. What the hell is he going to think of this? A basic demo that I've done at home here, without any of the massive tools or equipment that I should be using, you know.
Yeah.
A rough demo, and funny enough, he's kept that riff, that same guitar is still in the track. But he, as I said to you, his text back was, "I've just decided that you're a little, because that was his. He wasn't expecting it, if you know what I mean. He thought it would start off in it, okay, that's not bad, we work on it. But the one thing he did do was he pushed me into a corner on my own. And I know now why. If I had done that with him in studio and with him and Andrew, they would have said, Richie, we can't do this. We've done this 100 times over on Quo albums.
Yeah.
But he said he left me alone, and I pieced together a couple more chord progressions. And then when I put the melody on top with the idea of the lyrics that I had and the way the song plays out, he said, see, we wouldn't have got that outcome if we had have intervened earlier in the song process, in the writing of that song.
Yeah.
And I totally agree with him. He left me alone with it. So, and then when I sent it over, then he had the foundations to build on, and I would go over, and then we would start putting down the guitars and the vocals and... but it's hard to believe you're sat there listening to your own track in his studio on the beautiful big monitors, the big system, and then the magic thing is that when he puts his voice on it or when he plays on it. So he had been working an awful lot on Backbone. 7 days a week when we were off the road. He was working on Backbone non-stop every day. So when I heard my song being played back to me with the drum track, basically a backing track they had used before Leon came in, and then Francis's guitar bits, it just blew me away.
Yeah.
It wasn't even the finished song, so it grows. It grows as it's being built,
And I always assumed that if you write it, you'd sing it, but that's not necessarily so, right?
Yeah. No, and I say I'm very lucky because of the two tracks I've put forward. I do know I've seen an awful lot of people talking about Face the Music online and why it wasn't on the album. But with Get Out of My Head, again, whatever suits the track. So I sang it, and he wanted me to sing lead vocal on that. So for me to have the only other lead vocal on Backbone was what an honour, to say that it's only Francis singing on the album, and then my song, I get to sing it on the album itself. But with Face the Music, it was just as special because it suits his voice better. I purposely wanted to write a song that had a signature Quo-y type hook to it, but was quite poppy in a way, and the repetitiveness that you would hear in a pop song. So to hear Francis put his own lead vocal down on Face the Music, that was, I must be honest, it was just as special.
But I think a lot of people were confused by Face the Music because it's another fantastic track. But it was kind of only included as a bonus track, which was a bit confusing, really.
Yeah, I know. And again, look, it would have been nice if it had made the album. But I suppose with the way the market is nowadays and the business, there's always going to be deluxe products. There's always going to be a special feature or a bonus track of some degree. Years ago, it would be a single with a B-side. I presume if CD singles were still a thing, you would have been able to buy Liberty Lane and the B-side would have been Face the Music. Yeah. Like the way it used to be as the CD single. So I think look, of course, I would have loved the song to be on the main album, but I suppose it pushed a lot of people out to buy a deluxe product, and that's coming from a label, that's coming from higher up the chain, and that's the way the industry is, I suppose, Yeah. But it did turn out, like, I love Get Out of My Head, and it could quite possibly make it into the live set. We have to see what's going to happen. But Face the Music, I'm really proud of that song because it's not a typical thing that I would come up with. It's quite a hard riff at the start, and then it's got a poppiness to it. I would have loved to hear it get some radio plays or something like that, but see what happens on the next one.
Well, I was going to ask you if it was going to make the live set, because the reaction, I think, on social media from obviously from the Quo faithful anyway, but it was the same. It reminded me of, do you remember when Rhino's Bad News, I think it was on the Fourth Chord album? And it was that same kind of thing when everybody went, hang on a minute, that's brilliant. It was almost, it was something a little bit different. Obviously very, it was status quo. It's obvious that it's status quo, but it was just different enough to make everybody get drawn into it.
It is a fair point, and I think Freddie did some guitar solos on that. Rhino's son, I think, done some solos on that track. He gets a credit somewhere on it. So, again, I think Francis, going back to Bad News, I don't think it's a song he would have played, because if he hasn't done, I suppose, the whole solo himself, he probably wouldn't have been comfortable playing it or getting back to Get Out of My Head. Until we try and attempt to play this in the rehearsal studio, anything can sound fantastic on the record because a lot of work has gone into it and you recorded it. It's all been done perfectly. When you try to play these tracks live, it's a whole different animal. You can play it as best as you can, but it still just something might be lacking. It just might not sound great, and I never understood that until I was in the band. Why don't they just play this song? Why don't they just play that song? Yeah. We've even tried Reason for Living. It was my suggestion. I'd love to play Reason for Living in the electric set, and we tried it in soundcheck one day. Now, I thought it sounded okay, but it's just didn't turn out strong enough to keep it in the set, and that's possibly what could happen with Get Out of My Head. Like, I don't know what the set's going to be later in the year. I'm sure that's going to get mentioned. Francis has already mentioned it to me, but all I can do is I will be playing it at home. I will rehearse it as best I can and get it as best as I can for rehearsals, I would like to see it get a place in the set, but the set is a very tricky situation, as you know. Yeah.
Well, it's about an hour and a half, hour 40, isn't it? And you could fill that with just with the classic hits. So, to sort of start sticking stuff in.
You could fill it with hits, and then a lot of people would be disappointed. Yeah. You could fill it with just classic stuff, and a lot of people would go home and they didn't play the hits. Yeah. Yeah.
Before we finish, talking of the fans, I asked the fans for some questions for you. Okay. Are you all right? Just take a few before we finish.
Yeah, you can hit me and see. Can I get any surprises here?
All right then, let's have a look. Right then, Benjamin Anderson. There's nothing difficult to you, by the way. You know Benjamin, do you?
Yeah, I do. Yeah.
Okay, cool. So he said, he asked, what's your best moment of playing with Status Quo so far?
My best moment. Wow. It's hard because best moment could be on or off on the tour bus, or not on stage. But if I had to pick, I don't know. The likes of Hyde Park are very special moments. Playing those big signature venues. I'm sure when I think about this in a few minutes, I'll be, why didn't I say that, or why didn't I say this? But
shall I ask you it again in a minute?
you should ask in a minute. Yeah, there's quite a lot. It's a tricky one because there's some big highlights on stage and then off stage where it's great to be a band together at a meal or something. You know.
Yeah. Well, that's it, isn't it? Because you almost expect people to say, "Oh, Wacken," or like Hyde Park.
Yeah,
but
it's bed into you that way. Glastonbury, Wacken, Royal Albert Hall. Like for me, I suppose if I have to pick a moment, I know one. It will be travelling to Australia with the band.
Yeah.
And that's not to say that Middlesbrough Town Hall in 2017 or whatever wasn't epic, because it was. Travelling on Emirates across to Australia and playing the Opera House and seeing Australia, that was a big moment. I don't know if I'll ever get to do that again. So that's something quite special, but it doesn't knock all the other small things as well. You know?
No, I understand. Alan Smith, he said, are you still using Mike Smith guitars, and what string gauges do you use? Technical
I still
question?
am. Absolutely, good question. Yeah, my Cobra is sat here right beside me now, and most people don't believe it, but I've always used 13 to 56 strings.
Right.
So Rick was a 14. I'm using 13 to 56 on my two main Telecasters, and then for Hold You Back, I'm using 12 to 52.
Everyone always used to say about Rick Parfitt's strings that it was really difficult to play. You've played his guitar. Was it hard to play?
No, well, again, as I say, I'm using exactly the same strings as Rick, with the exception of the smallest one, the thinnest one. I'm still using. I think it's essential for me to play the Rick style, or to play Rick's rhythm parts. Freddie, I think, was using lighter strings, and I could hear it on the recordings. You could hear the major notes and certain things that didn't fit right. So Rick's guitar was a dream to play. I remember I've never played a guitar quite like it. The neck to the guitar it is, the year that it was and where it's been. It's very special, you know.
Yeah.
But I'm lucky in a way that I've always used Rick's strings, or Rick's same gauge of strings as Rick, so it didn't come as a surprise.
Because one other thing about your guitar, because I've heard you say that you didn't want to go out with a white telly because it was a bit too sort of pointed. You didn't want people sort of thinking that you were trying to be Rick Parfitt. So is that why you had the blue put on it, or was that already there?
Yes. So, again, it's a funny little side story. My main guitar when I first joined Quo was one of Mike Smith's Parfitt replicas, essentially, that my dad bought me when I was 21. It was a surprise birthday present. A fantastic guitar. I think Mike really hit a fluke with that one. It's really a special guitar, you know. It's just really, it's become fabulous over the years. But when I first got to rehearsals that day, I took the guitar in, and you would not tell the difference between Rick's and mine, you know, from a distance.
Yeah.
So when I went for a cup of tea, I had come back. Lloyd had been asked to cover it over with masking tape. So for the first few months, people were seeing this guitar on stage that looked yellow with blue stripes or whatever.
Yeah.
All it was masking tape. But when I got the guitar built, my Cobra Telly as it is now, I wanted to keep the same setup like Rick's. It works best for me. It's what I'm used to playing, the bridge and the pickups. But I've always had a fascination with cars and all that. So that's where we said, between me and Lloyd Gilbert, we just said, why don't we put some stripes on it and paint the headstock white, and it just looks slightly different, but it still retains the same setup that you would see on Rick's guitar, you know.
Yeah, right, fair enough.
Yeah.
Dan Tapscott, are there any plans to do any side projects, and would you consider doing the next Quo convention?
Yes, the next Quo, to answer the first one, side project, I will be getting my own band, Richie Malone band or whatever it's going to be called, up once after the wedding this year, from March onwards.
Right.
I've got a couple of good contacts. I've got a good mate on drums, Grant, and Brian Grace, the guitarist who plays with Tin Lizzy's drummer, Brian Downey.
Right.
And I believe I've got David Gray's bass player. So we're going to try get a band up and running, just playing good old-fashioned classic rock and blues. And to answer the question about the convention, I think the convention is the one in Butlins, right?
Yes, right, yeah.
So that would probably be in October if it's on this year, or if it's on every 2 years. But absolutely, I would love to go. If I'm free and available, I would love to. I have to make up my time to get over to, even to bring my own band over and play would definitely be on my wish list for sure.
Yeah, and Philip Jenkins in that same kind of vein, he said if you did a solo album, which direction do you think it would go? Do you think it would always be a sort of status quo-y kind of sound, or do you...
I think people would be a bit surprised, because I would probably be leaning more towards heavier songs, like some drop tuning and some drop D songs that I've done in the past. There would definitely be some good old-fashioned quo stuff on there, like what I've done with Face the Music or Get Out of My Head. That's what my writing style is, that type of guitar-driven piece. So if I was to do a solo album, I think there would be more so heavier tracks. I don't think I have quite a melodic voice to do a softer ballady type of a song, but until I get into the process of a solo album, I suppose I won't know until we start generating and building up the songs, you know. I think it will be a heavier direction. Right.
Just a few more. Lonnie Payton says, which is your favourite song to play live? It's probably an easy question for you.
Play live. I think originally I was really enjoying playing Big Fat Mama. But I think Little Lady or Mystery Song would be two of my favourites. But it goes back to earlier with the whole choreography and all that stuff that goes on stage. Some nights it could be, you wouldn't believe it could be a version of Down Down, you know. Yeah. It depends on what way we're feeling on the night. But for me, I do like, I like the ones that I'm singing, and I've always loved paper plane. Stuff that you can really pile into on the guitar. So yeah, there's a few of them. It tends to change, but I suppose if I had to pick one, it could be Little Lady or Mystery Song.
Yeah, I mean, I've spoken to you before, but the first time I heard you play Rain, I got goose pimples, because it was slightly different to how it had been before. There was just a sort of like a driving.
It's a lower tuning, might have a bit more of a bluesy. Nothing against the version that they used to do. It's been dropped from a vocal point of view, but it does have a bit more of a bluesier kind of a punch to it, you know. Yeah.
Oh, I really loved it. Chris Albert says, which band? This is an interesting question. Which band would you ideally like to support you?
For being in Quo.
Yeah.
Oh, Airborne or The Darkness.
Oh, there you go. Brilliant.
Yeah.
Because I've seen you, the last two times I've seen you. The first one was REO Speedwagon, which were amazing.
Oh, yeah.
And the second one was a band I'd never even heard of. They're called Cats in Space.
Cats in Space, yeah.
They were brilliant.
A bunch of guys. And funny enough, ever since we've played with them, I keep seeing their name popping up on Classic Rock Magazine or Planet Rock. Or on whatever, on Facebook. So I think they're doing quite well, and you know. So. Yeah.
Well, they were playing around here last year, just before Christmas, and I tried to get them on the show, but nobody got back to me, so I couldn't. But I wanted to speak to them, because I thought, in Manchester, I thought they were fantastic. Cats in Space, brilliant.
Good. Check them out, they're really good, yeah.
Yeah, because I mean, there was a thing, wasn't there, where the support act was always a kind of unsigned band or something, where like bigger bands would give them a chance. But now,
that was always tradition, I suppose. And I know I've seen my fair share of acts as a fan watching Quo, and one of my favourites would have been Payola. It wasn't been around. Was that they go back to the Heavy Traffic tour, I think? But I suppose as the business changes, I suppose a lot of people now are looking for, you know, a couple of big acts. And I know this year I'm really looking. I think who's supporting us? There's the Manfred Mann.
Oh right.
Or, the Manfred Mann are playing with us in a selection of German shows, I think. But see, it depends on. It's very hard to piece that together, because for us to get another big band on, they have to be free from their schedule. Then they have their own list of demands, not demands, but they have their own requirements. So like when we jumped in on the Skinner shows, that was a very difficult task, and it's not easy, you know. We have to roll in and do a 60-minute set, and we have to be off and out of their way, you know. So likewise with us, we would have our own routine, and if a big band is coming in, they're a reputable band, they're going to have their own requirements, so it can be tricky to put it all together, as opposed to just having an unsigned kind of act that will just roll in, do their piece and go, you know.
But in the first year, your first year, 2016, there was what was the name of the girl? There was like 3 girls who toured with you.
Oh, Lounge Kittens.
Lounge Kittens, they were brilliant.
Yeah.
Love them.
Fantastic, and I keep in touch with those girls, and I think they've just finished up touring. Actually, I think they might have finished up actually as a band. They've done a couple of some sold out shows in the UK, but they were great fun. They were really such nice girls, and extremely talented.
Yeah.
Vocally, not musician, unbelievable.
Because I remember thinking it was completely it was a shock, because if anybody's never heard of them, they're basically a piano and three close knit harmony girls. I mean, they were. I found them awesome. I really, because I first saw you in Birmingham, and the following week I got to Liverpool, and I was quite excited. I was more excited about seeing them again than REO Speedwagon, I'll be honest.
Well, look, it was, and we used to watch from behind the stage or behind the curtain when they were playing, and some of the faces down the front, you know, some like Quo fans.
Yeah.
Sometimes when there's a support band on, a Quo audience is not the easiest audience to play for, because they're there to see Quo, and that's it. So they did have a difficult task every night, you know. Yeah.
I thought they were terrific, but it's really difficult to kind of relay that when you're in a massive hall, and and they sort of came on early doors as well. They were on about 6:30, and the place was half empty.
Yeah.
It was. I felt a bit sorry for them, but I thought they were brilliant.
No, they were. In fairness, they're very good. Yeah.
Yeah. And one last question. This is from Sarah Lauritsen, and she says, if you could play a gig anywhere in the world, where would it be?
Well, if you had have asked me that question a few months ago, I would have said the Olympia in Dublin.
Right.
But now that Backbone Tour has been announced, guess where we're playing? The Olympia in Dublin. So that's my dream venue, and I'm going to get to play it. And it's only small. But she's asking, where would I play? Where would I pick? Anywhere.
Anywhere.
Well, see, it's. I know it's. I don't want to sound like you don't want to be name dropping, but all the places that I would have picked a few years ago, I would have picked Wembley Arena or the O2.
Yeah.
You know, be as crazy as to say, I would love to play the Sydney Opera House someday. I would love to play in Hyde Park. And I know it all sounds crazy. I cannot believe I've played in all of these, like the Royal Albert Hall. You know, incredible. These would have all been in my top 10 places. So I've been asked that a few times, and I have to now say somewhere where I've never been, anywhere in America. Like somewhere where the boys played in the 2000s, the B.B. King's Blues Clubs, or one of those places now for me will be a dream, because it's not just the venue. The venue is just the hall. It's the surroundings that really makes the gig for me, the crowd or the town that we've just rolled into. So to play anywhere in the States, any venue for me would be at the top of my list. So
Fantastic.
Whether we ever get to see it or not, I don't know.
Yeah. It's been historically they've been snubbed a little bit by America, haven't they, Quo?
Yeah, I know. Again, I suppose they never. From when I've read the history books on Quo and trying to learn about them over the years, and I know that once they got quite big in Europe, obviously, as we all know. So to go over to the States throughout the 70s and not really stick at it, but I think it's a real blessing in disguise that they never made it big in the States. If they hadn't made the big time in the States, I think they definitely wouldn't have lasted this long, because I think they would have overindulged and wouldn't have lasted as long as they did. And you know,
yeah.
But who knows?
Everything for a reason.
Everything for a reason. Yeah.
Yeah. But brilliant. And that's all. That's all the.
That's all the questions you have.
That's it. Apart from a proposal of marriage from Aideen. But
from Aideen.
But
we're on the list.
Richie, it's always an absolute pleasure to speak to you, mate. I know I've kept you far too long, but thanks ever so much for that, and I wish you all the best for your wedding to Jess in it's a few weeks now, isn't it? I don't want to make you feel nervous, but it's
a few weeks, and don't worry, I'm feeling nervous. The fact that I have to play and do all that, and it's crazy. It's only it's 100 to 200 people or whatever. I'm more nervous of being in that room than I am in front of 80,000 people. It's funny how it works.
Yeah. Absolutely. But you'll have a great time, and all the best with everything you do, my man.
No problem, and thanks for having me again, and thanks for everyone for all the support. So it's been good.
No sweat. You take care of yourself.
Thanks, Andy. Cheers, buddy.
Cheers, Richie. Take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Bye.
So there you go, Richie Malone of Status Quo on the Stage and Screen show, Calon FM. Fantastic, absolutely brilliant. And I got to be honest with you, never have we had such a reaction to any interview that I've had on Calon FM. And Richard Walker, he got in contact with me and he said, please tell Richie we Quo fans love his work and please keep it coming. And Jeff Evans, he says, we're going to see Status Quo on the 30th of November in Cardiff. Can't wait, and please play Get Out of My Head live. Would love to hear him. I think we all would, Jeff. And finally, Michael Owen. Oh, Michael Owen. I wonder if the football player. I wonder. Backbone is truly an awesome album. Keep up the great work, chaps, and keep on rocking. Yeah, Mr. Soundbite Man, Michael Owen. Cheers for that. I'm going to wrap this up with a fantastic medley that Status Quo did back in 2016. I think you'll enjoy this.